Okay, so she's done. All right, let's do it. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Metaverse Matters from Pebble Ventures. I'm here, as always, with my colleague, Lauren Fenema, and we're really happy to have with us today Noah Pompan, who is one of the co-founders of a very interesting new company called Plex Labs. And Plex is doing some amazing stuff in the space. It's really pushing where the space needs to go in terms of understanding all the different data aspects and who's using NFTs and buying NFTs. So Noah, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Mike and Lauren. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. So we had a chance to work together at your prior role, but I think it's really helpful for our audience to understand your background, how you got into the Web3 space, and then obviously we'll talk about Plex Labs and where you guys are going with that. So maybe just fill us in a little bit about your background and its connection to Web3 and crypto.
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from the brand side. I right out of school started at Red Bull, where I managed partnership strategy. So was hired to work with co-sponsors of teams and athletes to produce content and distribute that content, which put me in front of a lot of Red Bull's large platform partners, all the big tech companies from Facebook, Oculus, Spotify, Netflix, YouTube, etc. I was really thrown into the Web3 space in late 2020 when some layer one blockchains and NFT studios came to Red Bull to license IP, particularly clips, to build out a product that was conceptualized to be similar to Top Shot, but in the action sports space. At the time, Red Bull was really not comfortable giving up rights to a very nascent company. But when Tezos signed a sponsorship deal with Red Bull Racing, the brand took the emergence of various Web3 technologies much more seriously, and I was essentially made the head of Web3 exploration and Web3 execution within Red Bull. Attended every conference, met every player in the space, from layer one and layer two blockchains to NFT studios, to pretty much every relevant DApp in the at least in the collectibles and NFT space. Ended up leaving to join a company called Bitsky full time, where I headed up brand partnerships, and worked with a number of rights holders, from brands to sports teams to entertainment companies, to really execute NFT drops during the NFT craze of late 2020, early 2021, really spanning all the way into this year. So have a ton of experience working with non-crypto natives, explaining them really the merits and upside to investing in a Web3 strategy, and helping them really take baby steps into executing their preliminary on-chain activity, whether those are social tokens or NFTs for community building, loyalty programs, product redemption, or at least in the early days, collectibles.
Fantastic. So then you made the jump over to Plex Labs. What are you guys looking to do?
Yeah, so Plex really started as a conversation with my co-founding team at a crypto conference early this year, around the need for a low-code or even no-code solution to extract data, particularly around retention, engagement, and ultimately justifying ROI on brands that have expenditures in the Web3 space. So as mentioned, I came from Red Bull, where there were huge allocations to digital campaigns. With that came a really robust planning process and subsequent study of engagement, reach, CPM of these campaigns, which is common across all digital and performance-based marketing. We were not seeing this in Web3. Really, the only metrics that were distilled out of these campaigns came from very, very high level data points like floor price or volume of transactions. But there was really no simple and easy to navigate no code dashboard to view who's engaging with these projects, what else they're interested in, have the ability to segment these users, re-engage them, and extract very, very primitive data points on how these campaigns were performing. So started as a conversation at a crypto conference with my co-founding team, and really hacking together a very basic solution that did not require the user to have any SQL experience to build out dashboards to justify these spends, which the technical ability to do so for some of the other tools out there is just not conducive to helping marketers extract the data they need from these programs.
That's great. And maybe if you can just dive a little bit, full transparency here, we're part of the Plex Labs private beta program. We're very excited to do that. The tool is phenomenal in terms of just really understanding who's purchasing these NFTs, where they come from, how you can aggregate data, the various ways you can segment, and in kind of the next level layer of marketing programs that we're going to be doing with NFTs. But help us walk us through a brand. What's the value for them in terms of, the feedback you're getting from some of the early use cases that you're experiencing?
Yeah, so the feedback has been immensely positive through this pilot program we've launched prior to releasing a public product. We're being incredibly meticulous about ensuring we have some semblance of product market fit. One, before raising any sort of outside capital, and two, before releasing a product to the public. We want to make sure the tool we've built provides value to our customers. Our early pilot users, such as yourselves, have been incredibly hands-on in providing feedback, and ultimately helping us decide the data that we want to make part of the default dashboards that are displayed within the Plex platform once segmenting an audience, and then ultimately what to do with that data. We envision a lot of the brands that we're working with and the agencies we're working with to take a same data-driven approach to their Web3 campaigns as they do with their traditional marketing campaigns. So we're being incredibly hands-on in ensuring that we're providing the correct data back to our early users, such as Pebble Ventures. But so far, feedback's been it's been constructive, but our users have been adamant that this tool is helping them make better business decisions, product decisions, and ultimately providing better value to their customers.
Yeah, it's been super exciting, just interfacing with this kind of tool. And if we can just hop into it for a second, and let's say I am a brand and I launched an NFT, and let's say I even dropped it for free. So, and I have people out there who have claimed this NFT. If I'm using Plex, like, what can I do next? Or what's the future? Two things, actually. What can I do today? And then what's maybe even just a hint, if you can share what the future could look like? Because you've said so many juicy things like segmenting and retargeting and re-engaging, and those are all top of mind. Where are we today, and where could we go in the future with Plex?
So the future that we're building for is one in which the 4 billion plus internet users are taking custody of more of their data. They're the custodians of the cookies they're omitting as they navigate the internet, and this is not going to happen overnight. The cookie and digital ad infrastructure is not all of a sudden going to switch to an entirely decentralized model overnight. But we're incredibly bullish, as is a lot of the Web3 community, that the primitive of the internet is going to shift into one in which people are taking increased control of their digital identity and the cookies they omit. And what that basically looks like is your wallet serves as a pretty good indication of what your affinities are, and how you navigate the web. The NFTs you own, the tokens that you own give some semblance of the games you like to play, how you like to shop, the clubs that you're a member of, the events you've been to, how you borrow and perhaps even lend financial resources. And we at Plex think that data that sits with the custodians of that data being the user, paired with some off-chain data, aka traditional cookies, is a really powerful way to build audiences and understand what people are into in the future of the internet. Perhaps this utopian vision of Web3 where cookies don't exist at all, owned by central parties that are then reselling those cookies to then deliver ads, may come to fruition. Again, we don't think that's going to happen overnight. So we're building for sort of a hybrid model where the cookies you omit as you scroll through TikTok or read articles on Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg, paired with some of these on-chain attributes, mainly the tokens that you own, and the dApps that you're engaging with, paint a pretty good story as to what you're into. And we expect that vision for the future to only increase as really more valuable Web3 dApps come to market and become part of our daily internet usage. What to do with that data is the question. We're not building Plex to be a ad marketplace to spam future internet users, though we do want Plex to be a tool to discover audiences, manage these audiences, and ultimately engage them through a variety of on and off-chain metrics or methods, I should say. What that looks like is continuing to take shape, but there are a few interesting on-chain models to reach these audiences, like XMPP messaging, native wallet-to-wallet messaging, Airdrop, and then traditional social contact and content delivery mechanisms that exist to date.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight one thing you said, which it sounds like, and I agree, that what is in your digital wallet is basically a representation of who you are. So self-expression or just status even of what you find valuable, the brands that you like, the things you want to invest in, and the communities you're tapped into are all like showcased as NFTs basically in your wallet or other things you interact with. I think that point alone is really exciting to think about. And I think a ton of people in our audience are curious about that being kind of the first step into Web3 is understanding who these consumers are and how they're showing status through their digital wallets. So basically you're saying Plex helps them tune into what these audiences are based on the things that are in their digital wallets and how we can segment and target audiences based on those attributes at a high level.
Absolutely. That's the goal for the platform, to better understand audiences, how they navigate the blockchain, enrich that data with some off-chain attributes, to build a more robust profile on who these wallets really belong to and what else they're interested in, and then have mechanisms to actually engage and incentivize these audiences to perform certain actions or engage with certain protocols.
Super cool. Mike?
Yeah, no, one of the things I thought was really interesting as we first started to dive into it was this idea of who owns the NFTs already, who's kind of newbies, who's doing this. Can you talk a little bit about the ways that we're going to be engaging? You mentioned some of them just a few minutes ago, but maybe talk a little bit about airdrops, as we've talked about before, and how maybe they're losing some of their effectiveness versus some of these other new ways. Because I want to give the brands that are listening today some insights into kind of parallels to what they're doing in the real world, so to speak, today, that will be coming down the line in this new world, leveraging this new data.
Absolutely. So airdrop really was and remains an effective way to deliver content or digital assets to Web3 users in an entirely decentralized fashion, meaning you're not relying on any sort of intermediary infrastructure to deliver that content to the user. When NFTs were in their sort of nascency, and people did not have a massive volume of assets in their wallet, it was easier to be informed and really anticipate airdrops. Today, people, including myself, have so many assets in their wallet that most of these airdrops just end up in a hidden folder, and you don't even really know you've received it unless you've been notified. So really the most effective way to execute an airdrop is to market that this asset is incoming for holders of certain NFTs. So if you've performed a certain set of actions or hold certain NFTs or even fungible tokens in your wallet, you may be eligible for this incoming delivery of some sort of store of value or access or redeemable for some sort of product. But we found it's most effective when the person or organization executing that airdrop first informs the audience that they're going to be receiving something, so they know to really check their wallet. Airdrops candidly have become a bit spammy, where people are receiving tokens without any sort of heads up, or it's just a flyer for something that may not be particularly relevant. We don't anticipate airdrop to be the best on-chain method to reach audiences, but to date, it's definitely the most widely adopted.
Sure. Where are you focusing in any particular segments, whether it's finance or retail or entertainment, anywhere in particular, or are you trying to cover the entire market just based on the level of activity that's out there today?
So we're building Plex in the future to be a tool to reach audiences across all use cases on chain. So that includes DeFi, play to earn gaming, NFT collection. There's a multitude of dApps that are building across different areas. In our early days, we found particular product market fit within the NFT community, mainly brands that have executed drops, and maybe their business planning cycle is upcoming for the next fiscal year, and they want more budget to continue experimenting or executing certain campaigns in the Web3 space. They now need to justify to the decision makers within these organizations why that budget is justified, and they need to show data on the performance of the campaign from last year. So brands with a Web3 strategy have really been our core users, and the agencies which are helping brands execute on this strategy. We've also found a semblance of product market fit with play to earn gaming studios. So these companies are building games where the players of these games own various assets, whether they're characters, skins, or other gaming assets. They own these in the form of NFTs that sit in their wallet. These gaming studios are really using Plex as a CRM to track how their users, or how the wallets that designate users that are engaging with these games, how they're purchasing assets, what else they own, and the other games that they're participating in, because we showed the other NFTs owned by the segment. That's been our earliest core user, but we anticipate in the future to be used by DeFi protocols, by various other dApps across the Web3 ecosystem.
Perfect. Great.
That lit up a question for me. So like, it sounds like, just to put this in a brand perspective again, if I launched an NFT to like my most loyal customers, but then let's say I also launched 6 months from now something in a game where you can buy my apparel in a play to earn game, using Plex, I could evaluate both of those scenarios and understand kind of who those different audiences are. So which of my audience is just excited in this kind of access to my brand through limited drops of NFTs versus like who's in gaming, who's excited to play to earn and have my brand be a part of that experience too. So that's something you could help us understand with Plex and the data you're collecting.
Absolutely. So the use case for Plex is pretty plastic on behalf of how brands and their agencies are going about navigating the platform. Sometimes Plex is used as a planning tool. So if I'm a brand looking to execute my first drop, I could seamlessly, without any code and without much time, understand what some of my competitors have done, how those campaigns have performed. So we measure various collection attributes such as number of transactions, total revenue generated by primary and secondary sales, the number of wallets that own these assets. And you could basically build segments that consist of multiple collections. So for example, Budweiser has executed a number of branded campaigns from their Budverse Heritage initial launch. They did a Bud Light branded drop, and then they did a music NFT in partnership with several different artists. For example, on Plex, we built a segment of every single Budweiser branded NFT. It breaks down the performance of each one of those collections individually, and then shows a master list of all of the owners across each one of those segments. If I'm a competitive CPG company or even a liquor company, I think that would be really helpful for my planning process. Or if I'm Budweiser and I'm looking to execute additional drops in the future and have budget allocated, with Plex, you could immediately start capturing various data points and articulate the success of these campaigns back to decision makers within the company, and have a list of like tens of thousands of consumers that have an affinity not only for Budweiser but also for Web3 and are active within Web3. And through our platform, there's a way to re-engage these audiences via social contact, as we map to Twitters and Discords, through Airdrop, and then soon to the platform will be native wallet-to-wallet messaging. So the use case is really, it spans across planning, research, building lookalike audiences, and then really quantifying success on these campaigns.
Yeah, that's such a good, when we first looked at it, it was crystal clear that that was going to be a huge value today to brands. It's so interesting and amazing to think we can just go in with some simple queries and pull up a ton of information about who's doing what. And it's very visual, it's easy to use, a simple dashboard. And then the idea, obviously, that when we're actually executing campaigns, we can identify all these segments. Those seem to me to be the real near-term opportunities for Plex and for the brands that we're all working with. Lauren, I hope I didn't cut you off there.
No, I just like I get excited in these conversations. Quick question, I think everyone's mind, as we were talking about earlier with cookies and kind of the transformation of what's happening on the web and privacy at large, are there, maybe someone's question would be, what about privacy and how are you able to find this data? Are you, is that just inherent in the fact that so much of this is anonymous and decentralized, or just kind of give us a little color on that for folks who are curious?
Yeah, so all transactions on most EVM compatible chains, meaning Ethereum based chains, are public. They exist on a public ledger, on a block explorer, and they're tied to these pseudo-anonymous identifiers, which are called wallets. How we're able to pull off-chain data, mainly social footprint, location-based data, is predominantly through dApps that people use. When I say dApp, that's a decentralized application such as OpenSea. It's really the port into the Web3 ecosystems. On OpenSea, for example, people have profiles where often they'll link various contact points such as Twitter, or some cases Discord or email. They'll put their location. We're able to basically pull in these attributes that are tied to wallet. Similarly, when people quote dox themselves on their Twitter by listing an ENS name, those, in my case, noahmason.eth or .sol for like Solana. For example, when people have a domain name tied to their wallet that's public facing, we're able to tie wallets to public profiles and build more robust profiles on each one of these wallets. But for the most part, these transactions, they're all public, they're all on a public ledger. They're just really hard to distill any meaning and organize. And that's why we built Plex, to easily query these block explorers, build segments, and build some sort of semblance and understanding of what this all means as around people's habits on blockchain-based applications.
That was great. Thank you.
Well, I know we're running a little bit near the end of time. So one last question is, how can brands start to think about this next level of use case, this next level of data use? For brands that have dropped NFTs or are just about to drop NFTs, can you give them a little bit of insight, especially from your side, coming from the brand, about how they need to start thinking about, I don't know if you want to call it data 2.0, CRM, future of personalization, future of targeting? What should be on their minds as we head into the last quarter of 2022 and 2023?
So while Web3 based technologies are still in their nascency, these, as we discussed earlier in our conversation, these data points that sit in Web3 users' wallets in perpetuity will tell a story around their affinities, their interests, both digitally and in the real world. So this is a really effective way for brands to maintain a one-to-one relationship between the brand and their core consumer, essentially not being reliant on an intermediary like Instagram or ByteDance or Snapchat to reach these audiences. They could execute some sort of campaign to issue a token which sits in these users' wallets, in most cases for perpetuity, and basically pinpoints these wallet addresses as a certain subset of Web3 users that have affinities for their brand. It's a very, very low lift way to build these relationships and ultimately start building out segments of Web3 users that will use these digital personas, these wallets to basically navigate the internet in the future. To build that relationship early, you could, once you basically have that initial token in the wallet, you could continue maintaining a relationship with them, because they're you could essentially find them forever. And it's important, I think, to start now, to start building these segments of consumers that have affinities for these brands, and continue essentially rewarding your early affinity groups. It's really simple to do. There's various ways to execute campaigns, whether it's issuing an NFT that could be redeemed for physical product, or access to an event, or part of a loyalty program. I'm not as bullish personally on these digital collectible concepts where we're just gonna release an NFT and they'll mint out because it's an NFT and because it's really the first foray into the space on behalf of the brand. But there are ways to drive real value and ultimately drive adoption and the relationship with these consumers in a pretty low lift way. So I think the stigma around NFTs is we're really going to see that start to change. And I think this is really the future of marketing is these one-to-one relationships and not being reliant on buying segments of users from the social platforms that are packaging and reselling all of our data.
Yeah. Fascinating. Awesome. Thank you, Noah, for joining us. Tell our audience where they can find you.
Yeah, so you could find us. Our website is plexlabs.io, and our Twitter is Plex Laboratory. That's really the best place for now. My personal Twitter is Noah M. Pompan, and I'm regularly tweeting updates around what we're building. And if you want to get in touch, feel free to reach out over Twitter or find me on LinkedIn, and would love to have a conversation.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for making some time. we'll be talking quite a bit, obviously being part of the beta program, and have a good one.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.